The half-inch MKR and AKR. This is our second program in the Koomey Regulator Repair Series. They're nearly identical in design, so that's why we've put them together in one program. The only difference is right here. The spring housing on the MKR versus the air diaphragm on the AKR. In our last show, we mentioned that in the repair of a Koomey regulator, it would take even the most experienced subsea hand an hour or two. We couldn't show you the procedure in much less time on videotape, certainly not in 15 or 20 minutes. So we're going to rely on you. In this Koomey repair program, we intend to point out critical aspects of the repair procedures. These are going to be points that a manual can't stress properly by printed words. Everything else is up to you. These valves are deceptively simple. Despite the many small parts they have, you can repair one of these regulators as long as you have the proper materials on hand when you repair. Those materials are your rig manuals and the manufacturer's valve drawing. As always, once you've located the faulty valve, make sure system pressure is vented. Even though all pressure gauges read 0, loosen hose fittings slowly. Often there will still be a little pressure left in the lines. Your work area must be clean. Make sure it's clear of dust and dirt. Such debris won't treat intricate valve parts very well at all. Like the 1-inch MKR in our last program, your first step is the most critical when disassembling the half-inch MKR. Unload the spring. If you don't, you may launch the housing itself or the spring parts inside. You can imagine what that'll do to anything or anyone in the way. Loosen the lock nut and then turn the ball handle counterclockwise. The spring is unloaded when the ball handle and adjusting screw turn freely. Then and only then should you take off the spring housing. Then, before disassembly, mark the flanges and valve body like so. You must reinstall the flanges exactly as you took them off. This is for two reasons. First, the internal porting requires it. Second, you want to make sure your fittings face the right way so the valve will fit back in the stack, hose reel, or pod tester. Now the disassembly process begins. We'll touch on the highlights of the disassembly process. The details are up to you. You've got two things going for you: subsea manuals on hand and your own common sense. As you take the valve apart, handle the pieces gently. Don't force anything. Don't yank on any internal valve parts or the flanges. On this valve, all the spring housing and flange cap screws are the same size, so you don't really need to group them together in any special way. As you pull the flanges off, rotate them back and forth and they slide out a bit easier. A design note here. The body style has changed recently with the half-inch KR valves. The newer models don't have an outlet flange. Instead, they have a threaded port where a pipe fitting like this can be added. The difference to you? Not much. Internally, the valve hasn't changed. In fact, it's one less flange and a few less cap screws to worry about. With all the flanges removed, you can see the positions of the seal cages inside the seal container. Note the difference in the hydro seals. The upper seal is the dump seal cage and hydro seal. The lower seal is the inlet seal cage and hydro seal. Push the seal container out from the bottom. The plunger guide will come along with it. Take care that you don't damage the hydro seal edges on the edges of the plate openings when they slide through. With a little bit of effort, you should be able to push it out with your thumb. When you push out both seal cages, don't use any metal objects to push them out or back in. The hydro seals are made to specific tolerances. These tolerances could be damaged by metal tools. Use your fingers to do the job. Make sure they're coated with a light lubricant. This will keep corrosive skin acids away from the hydro seal edges. Then you've got to push the hydro seals and compression springs out of the seal cages. Use something like a thin screwdriver or hex key and gently reach through from the other side and push the hydro seal out. Just in case you reuse the hydro seals, keep them in some kind of order so you'll replace them exactly as you took them out. Quite simply, each valve builds its own wear pattern. If you change the position of the seals, you'll change that pattern, and the valve may never work right again unless you replace everything. This valve has far fewer parts than the larger valves, and once you've disassembled the seal cages, pull all the O-rings. You're going to replace each one. Use a small screwdriver like this to remove them. When you pull them, be careful not to scratch or score any ring grooves, especially those on the hydro seals and seal cages. Be especially careful of the sealing edges. Don't drag your screwdriver across them or use them as a fulcrum to pry off the seal rings. Make sure you have your new seal kit on hand. You'll want to match the old seals to the new ones. Replacements must be identical. Don't simply find an O-ring that looks about the right size and use it. When you clean the valve parts, be as thorough as possible. Clean every seal surface, ring groove, flange face, bore, etc. Use a solvent or diesel. Even soap and water will do. The internal parts should be fairly clean to begin with. If you find a dirty seal container or rings, check your fluid reservoir for dirt or debris. If you have to, you can use emery cloth or steel wool to remove mud or dirt buildup. But be sure the emery cloth or steel wool is soaked in solvent, and use either gently. Never use emery cloth or steel wool on the hydro seals or plates. If they're so dirty that you still need steel wool to clean them off, then replace them. One last part. Clean the cap screws. Look for damaged threads. Replace whatever cap screws you can't repair. Inspection and reassembly. We're going to be a little more detailed in this section of the program, so many of your inspection and reassembly procedures are critical. In general, carefully inspect all the ring grooves throughout the valve, on the plates, the flanges, the hydro seals, the plunger guide, any ring groove. Look for any nicks or burrs that could cut the new seals. If you find this damage, replace the part. All the metal parts other than the flanges come in the repair kit. Let's look for specifics. Start at the cages and hydro seals. Pay particular attention to the hydro seals, especially the sealing edges. If they're damaged in any degree, replace them. Check the fluid passages. Make sure they're unclogged. Check the cage bores. The hydro seal O-ring seat in here. The surface must be smooth. Again, if they're damaged at all, replace the cage. The seal container. Look for nicks or burrs along the seal container sides. Since it slides up and down, you don't want any nicks or burrs to cut the valve body. Check the seal bores. They should be smooth all around. If they're scored, they're probably not sealing around the seal cages. The plunger guide. Check the bore for any nicks or spurs. Such damage might cut into the plunger or plunger seals. On the port plates, check the wear marks. Even though they're visible, the plate faces should still be clean and smooth. If not, replace the port and hydro seals. And like the hydro seals, don't touch the plate faces with bare fingers. Coat your fingers with hydraulic oil first. Skin acids are corrosive to the finely polished surfaces. On the mating surface, check for damage around the off-center hole. If there is such a condition, fluid is slipping past the O-ring. Check the fluid passage itself. It's vital that it be unclogged. When you're satisfied that the inspection process is complete, put all your new seals in place. Several general reminders here. Lubricate each seal before you install it. Remember those cautions we pointed out in Part 1. No matter what type of hydraulic fluid you're using, use a light lubricant. Don't use a petroleum-based grease with natural rubber seals. And silicone lubricants may have an adverse effect on valve parts in saltwater applications. Most importantly, don't over-lubricate. A simple light coat will do for each seal. Lubrication is simply a precaution to ease the assembly of the valve. If you over-lubricate, or if you use grease on the rubber parts, you're inviting trouble, especially in working seals. The lubricant, especially grease, will collect debris in your BOP fluid. When the seals move in relation to metal parts, it'll look like sandpaper was at work on your valve. Be cautious as you install Teflon rings. Don't expand them too far to get them on. If you stretch them out too far, they won't return to their original shape. As we said once before, be patient. You'll find installing rubber O-rings and Teflon backup rings to be a tedious, nearly impossible task, especially with the smaller rings like those on the hydro seals. Take your time so you don't tear or cut any seals or seal grooves. By the way, notice the backup ring is toward the sealing edge on the inlet hydro seals. Unfortunately, you can put the inlet hydro seals into the cage backwards if you're not careful. In a quick glance, both edges seem to be the same. Your clue is inside the hydro seals. The sealing edge is on the flat side, here. The slanted side goes to the inside, toward the spring. As you can see, those edges aren't critical. When you've installed all the seals, it's time to put the whole thing back together. The reassembly procedure is basically a reverse of the disassembly procedure. Let's detail the critical points for you. The seal cages and hydro seals. Place the first hydro seal in the dump cage, carefully by hand. If you're reusing the old hydro seals, install them exactly as they were before. With new hydro seals, it doesn't matter which you put in first. Just make sure the sealing edges face outward. Then place the compression spring in. Finally, place the other dump hydro seal. Squeeze them together once or twice just to make sure they're firmly in place. Then the inlet seal cage. When you put the seal cages back in, do it by hand only. Don't use any metal objects, not even a brass rod. The placement, of course, is critical. The inlet cage, the one with the smaller OD edges, goes in the bottom bore, and the dump cage goes in the top. Make sure they're about centered in their bores. When you place the seal container in and then put on the flanges, they'll set themselves, so it's not that critical. But you don't want to have either seal cage hanging out too far. They might get damaged when you place the container back in the valve body. Install your seal container and plunger guide together. Be very careful as you slide the plunger guide on. Make sure the backup rings don't get cut. Place the seal container and plunger guide through the top into the valve body. Of course, make sure the hydro seals face toward the port openings. Installing the flanges. Attach the bottom flange first. Rotate the flanges on in the same manner you took them off. Coat enough cap screws with anti-seize for one flange at a time. Don't do them all at once. The anti-seize will collect dust if they sit around for a period of time. The position of the ported flanges is critical. Let's jump back a step to the point where you attach the flange to the port plate. The guide pin makes sure you place the flow port on correctly. When you look at the two attached assemblies together, you can see they're identical. Correctly placed in the valve, however, the off-center holes are in different positions. Now, these positions determine which side is the inlet and which side is the dump. Now, if you mark the flanges before you disassemble the valve, you have no problems. If you miss that step, however, you need to know which side is which. As you look at the outlet port, the dump port is to the left, and the off-center hole should be at the top. Conversely, the inlet port is to the right, and the off-center hole should be at the bottom. If for some reason you want to reverse the direction of flow through the valve, you can do that. Rotate the off-center holes 180 degrees. and the left port becomes the inlet, and the right port becomes the dump. Once the flanges are in place, you have a reassembled valve except for the spring housing. What we've done so far is identical for the MKR and the AKR. In fact, right now we could put the air diaphragm on and turn this valve into an AKR. We'll disassemble an air diaphragm in a few minutes, but let's continue with the spring housing for now. The parts should come out easily. If the grease isn't gritty or dirty, you can go ahead and reassemble the housing and put it back on the valve body. If the grease is gritty, clean all the parts and re-grease them. Clean inside the spring housing too. Diesel is actually the best way to remove the old grease, but any solvent should do. Use a good heavy waterproof grease and thoroughly coat each part. When you're through, place the adapter over the plunger guide. Then place the spring housing on the valve body. Line up the 4 mounting holes and replace the final 4 cap screws. One additional note if you're using this MKR subsea. The hydrostatic vent must be open. If you plug it, the housing may collapse, or the valve may work improperly or not at all. The AKR differs from the MKR by this assembly right here, the air cover. To remove it, take the top cover off first. The cover contains this rubber diaphragm. The airspace is above, of course. This bladder is clean. In fact, it's brand new. If you find rubber that's cracked or torn, replace it. The rubber manipulates this diaphragm plate. The shaft of the plate directly contacts the top of the seal container, and that's how the container moves up and down. The next half-inch AKR you disassemble may have a spring in here over the shaft of the plate. The newer valves don't have them. Field experience has shown that the spring actually has no effect in the operation of the valve, so the manufacturer stopped including them. This cover retainer holds the bottom cover to the valve body. Remove these 6 cap screws, the retainer, and we're back to the valve body again. Here you see the same set of cap screw holes cut into the top. All these parts should be clean. They are surrounded by air only. You might find a little oil or water on them, but that's about all. If you find a lot of oil, there's a problem with the airline lubricator. If you find a lot of water, there's a problem with the moisture separator. The only thing you should need to change periodically is the rubber diaphragm. In our next program in the Koomey Regulator series, we'll disassemble the 1-inch AKR. This program is intended as a supplement. Now take some time to study your subsea manuals. And remember to keep your subsea manuals and valve drawings on hand whenever you repair a valve.